The 2024 summer transfer window goes from mad to even madder to outright crazy. And today on the channel, guys, we have got the return of the Chelsea Comedy Club as they have announced another signing, would you believe? And Kieran Dewsbury Hall rejoined with his former Leicester manager Enzo Maresca in this Chelsea remodel, redesign, resurgence. Who knows how it's all going to shake out. In the video today, we're going to look at what the arrival of Kieran Dewsbury Hall actually means to the Chelsea squad depth, and really what, honestly, wait till you see their squad. It is just outright ridiculous. They've got so much more business to do, and especially like when you see all this mudslinging that goes around between Premier League fans, Chelsea really do seem to just be, I don't know if it's forgiven or just kind of, check how crazy it is over there, and just almost written off. But the size of their squad, the quality of position they've got all across their depth chart is unreal. And really, the Chelsea transfer window really should be the absolute busiest. And adding in another player like Kieran Dewsbury Hall, who really should be a centrepiece for the new manager in whatever style he's going to mould this Chelsea team into, just creates, I think, a hell of a lot more problems than it probably solves. In the video today, like I say, we'll be looking at Chelsea, the comedy club, exactly what they've got going on, what they need to do, what will probably happen, and maybe a few other bits and bobs in between at any point in the video. But if you do laugh, if you do learn something or like it or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section and let me know, what do you think is the biggest problem with this Chelsea team, or what do you think is the outgoing transfer that they're going to be forced to make? This is probably the better way of doing it, that they will in turn come to regret quite quickly. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, for some of you guys that are new around here, Chelsea last season under Pochettino, and really in the post-Abramovich era, has been a real source of laughter and joy for me, particularly. Not any particular hate or anything like that towards Chelsea, but the decisions, the transfers, so much of what's been going on there post-Roman Abramovich has just been comical, to say the absolute least. And really, preparing for this video today, I had to go all across a lot of different places to really find out who is in the squad, who have they been linked to, who's about to sign, who's about to leave, and all the rest of it. Because when I just laid it out from the first source, the first website, I was absolutely, like, honestly laughing the whole way through it. Because generally when I'm doing these videos, and any football man, any football person out there that thinks about building a squad, whether it's a team you support, maybe you're playing Football Manager or Sorare or FIFA or whatever it might be, and you're just looking at how a squad's built and who's likely to get in and who could be the key players, you normally expect a really competitive team. If you think about Man City, who are supposed to be the uber, player collecting club around there, and they don't spend mega money on one player, but they'll spend 60 million on everyone, and then to their position and the tactical shape that they're taking, they've got first team caliber everywhere. But this Chelsea team, where to even start with it, right? We start with Kieran Dewsbury Hall, right, who has come right into midfield here. And really, like I said in the intro, should be one of the fulcrums, should be one of the maestros, one of the main men in the engine room for Enzo Maresca. He's ID'd him, he's brought him in, he's been the manager for a while, he is well aware of the squad that they currently have, and he said, I need Kieran Dewsbury Hall to come in and make this team better, to lift it up a level. Now, the first thing I'll kind of say on this before we kind of get into the players and what's all going to be moving around or whatever is, I don't really have much faith or much hope for Chelsea that Maresca is going to work out to be a great appointment. I know he did fantastic with Leicester. Maybe he's turned a bit of a corner or whatever, but that stint at Parma and just being a number 2 to Pep, and I don't know, I've just got a feeling that this is going to be like Graham Potter all over again. It's going to be too much for him, and especially when you like thinking about actually doing a training session, actually taking a squad on pre-season and whatever, and there's some players will be able to take off this chart quite easily, right? Ones that will get moved on loan or be sold or whatever. Some of them are kind of obvious and kind of the ball is rolling already. We've already seen Amari Hutchinson leave. We've already seen Hakim Ziyech leave, as well as Ian Matson to Aston Villa. So they're definitely busy. There will still be more outgoings, no two ways about it. But the midfield in particular, right, is covered in real quality. The actual head count, the numbers, the variety of player is kind of there. Now, Dewsbury Hall is a bit more of the Madison kind of, and I know it's a bit of a lazy comparison because of the Leicester thing, but he's a wee bit more like that than maybe your Enzo or your Caicedo. And certainly Conor Gallagher, although he's got the energy, he moves into those kind of spaces. He's maybe not recognised as being that flair, creative attacking midfielder type, maybe closer to like a Palmer or whatever. So straight away, you've got those three guys who really shared the shirt quite well throughout last season, and it's hard to imagine that bringing Dewsbury Hall in ahead of one of those three really should and would move the team on tactically. But it's the rest of the supporting cast around us, because Romeo Lavia, when he came to Chelsea for mega money from Man City, this guy was well renowned across European football as being an emerging wonder kid. Ogochukwu, who came in from the Rennes Academy, obviously very, very well renowned, much more of a defensive kind of midfielder, of course. And Cassidy, who's an Italian youth international, flourished under Maresca at Leicester, had half of Serie A after him, and they kept him. Again, let's see how that one kind of shakes out. But then you add in Andre Santos, who they've bought in from Brazil, loaned out to Strasbourg, and maybe he's going to be coming into the reckoning here a little bit as well. There is like three people here for every position that is likely to happen. Chukwuemeka, I don't really include in this conversation as much, because there's a fair amount of reports that maybe he's on his way, perhaps maybe to Serie A, could be somewhere else around the Premier League, just the way that youth products have been kind of horse traded across the league and whatever. So I don't really factor him in too much to this. I think we can probably just take him out of the equation. And I know what you're thinking. Chelsea will be competing on a couple of different fronts. They might go for the League Cup, they might go for a run in the FA Cup, and they've got the Europa Conference League coming up. But even at that, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo is a thick end of £200 million worth of midfield. Never mind some of the emerging talents they've already brought into their squad and they've got floating around. And homegrown hero, of course, Conor Gallagher. So I just think this is absolutely crazy. The best kind of context to kind of flavour this with is towards the back end of the Championship season. If we look at Leicester's 5-0 demolition of Southampton, which is a top team in the league, of course, they were at home and it was a very resounding victory. But this is the shape, this is a formation, this is a style of play that Maresca predominantly used in the Championship. That three-man midfield, one of them, a Harry Winks type, a guy that's a bit of a metronome, will move the ball from left to right, won't do anything too silly, will guard passing lanes, alongside an Ndidi, a bit of a ball winner, a bit of a guy with high energy, will come into different areas and try and stop the counter-attack happening, maybe win the ball back for you. And then Dewsbury Hall, the playmaker, the guy you put on the ball and you try and make everything go through and make everything happen. And if we look at this Chelsea setup that we've got here, it's hard to imagine, is Cole Palmer going to be in the front three? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, right? But probably more likely that he is, with Dewsbury Hall coming in here. So maybe he's going to be occupying one of these kind of wide attacking roles and coming inside a little bit more. Perhaps that's the way it's going to be. But if we imagine Dewsbury Hall is going to be that playmaker position in here, you probably see Caicedo being the Ndidi kind of doppelganger, as it were. And then is Enzo going to be the Harry Winks? That then leaves 5 of these guys out of the fray. And I think this all points to, unfortunately for Chelsea fans, one thing, and that will be the departure, will be the transfer out of Conor Gallagher, homegrown prospect. A big transfer fee will come for him. And I'm pretty sure that's going to sadden a lot of Chelsea fans, because if you do take Conor Gallagher out of this, although there's still like the high prospects and all the other stuff that we're saying about this midfield depth that they've got on the go, Conor Gallagher is a tried and tested Premier League midfielder without a shadow of a doubt. Kieran Dewsbury Hall is not that. Enzo, jury's kind of out in some ways. Caicedo 100% is. And then the rest of the support cast is still very much the unknown. And Chelsea, for how expensive and how glamorous this whole squad is and everything that they're looking to do, that's not a second string I think you can reliably use to get into the top 4, to get into the top 5, get back into Champions League football this season, maybe next season, who knows. Let's see how many minutes they get and how they kick on. But even at that, let's say you sell Conor Gallagher, it doesn't really relieve them in midfield of a lot of their problems in terms of keeping these guys progressing, actually using them. And maybe the likes of Cassidy gets sold to Serie A, and it just makes it even worse. It just makes it even lighter. Now, the goalkeepers here is a bit of overkill, right? Bettinelli is the kind of, whatever. Slonina will probably get loaned out, being the bit of a prospect that he is. And who knows what's really going to happen with Kepa. I think Chelsea would love someone to come and buy him. But by all accounts, I think Robert Sanchez has got a really good chance of being number 1 from some of the reporting that I've been catching. So I think trying to push Kepa out the door is definitely going to be something they're going to be interested in. But Petrovic and Sanchez with Bettinelli, that's probably going to be the goalkeeping fraternity that we see for Chelsea this season. But the defence, honestly, it looks like they're going to be signing this Anselmo guy from Anselmino from Boca Juniors. But if they do sign him in this window, he's going to go straight out on loan to Strasbourg or perhaps back to Boca, and they'll maybe come in the January window or maybe next summer. So we'll kind of watch how that goes. We can kind of take him out of the equation for now. But between the rest of these guys, we'll take Sarr out as well, because he's just a bit of a meme at this stage. But Fofana, who's been injured, Badiashile, who was definitely solid and one of their best players last year in spells, defensively, that is, they're performed. whenever Disasi and Shalaba were in the defence, I always just felt like they were, severely undermanned. Colwell, I'm a huge fan of, and Tosin Adebayo, let's see how he can kick on. But again, there is like so many different players here to each position, and it's hard to imagine any of these guys are moving on. Gusto has definitely got a home in the hearts of all the Chelsea fans. Reece James is the #1 right back. And between Chilwell and Cucurella, I think, again, the left back situation is well taken care of. It's just the centre back situation here. Even McGilchrist, again, a bit of a hometown hero. I know he features a little bit at right back, but by all accounts, he's a bit more of a centre back. There's just so many guys here. I don't see how they're going to manage to cope with keeping all these players happy, fit and firing, and, actually working out the strongest lineup. Because again, if we look at how Maresca kind of lined up at Leicester, he likes bombastic fullbacks to go on, and he wants his defenders to defend, which, I think with the fullbacks in question that are on the books here, he's going to be really happy with these guys. And it is going to be a case of, picking his battles or choosing his best pair for defence. With Tosin coming in under the manager, it definitely feels that he's ID'd him to be, at the very least, if not the starting centre-back, one of the guys that will be in amongst it as well. So it's going to be jury out between some of these other guys for who he actually likes or whatever. It's hard to imagine Shalaba. For me personally, it's hard to imagine Disasi. These guys really do get in to the picture for best 11. So jury's kind of out. I think Badiashile and Colwell's probably how I would imagine it, kind of going from the early off. But again, like, it's just absolutely, it's funny, it's ridiculous. There's so many players here. This is like I know all the Todd Bowley stuff has been about, like, oh, he's played Football Manager too much, but this is genuinely like a 12-year-old playing Football Manager. Just buy all the French wonder kid defenders, just go around Europe and buy the best guys, spend all your budget on them, and then deal with the problems later. But then when you even come into the attacking area up here, is there anyone we can mark off quite easily? Washington, I don't think I've really seen much being said about him staying in around Chelsea. I know Datro Fofana has probably ran his race there. So these guys are maybe sold or kind of loaned out. And Broja has a lot of offers, has a lot of links, but he's saying he might just stay. He's got a contract and he might try and stay and fight for his spot. But with the acquisition of Gu, that's how I'm going to say it, it does feel like his days will be up. Again, ID'd by the manager. Nico Jackson was the #1 guy, and the club have really backed, so it's hard to imagine that he's going to be totally bombed out. So Broja, not too sure what happens with him, but he probably does go. And Lukaku, again, I don't think we're going to see him play for Chelsea again, so he probably jogs on as well. Angelo coming in from Strasbourg, and Moriera coming back on loan from Lyon. These are guys that Angelo maybe could be a guy that comes into this squad and maybe starts to make an impact. But the announcement that we got around Kellyman signing, and this guy can play in a few different roles, he's still very young in his career, it's hard to know exactly where he does play, but it was said that he's going to be in the first team picture for sure, so it's hard to imagine with all the guys that are up here. Let's imagine Moriera goes out, so that's easy enough to imagine, barely played at Lyon. You've got Sterling, you've got Mudryk, you've got Nkunku coming back to fitness, Madueke, Kellyman's in the picture. Palmer, we're suggesting, is going to be in this front three somewhere if he's not in midfield. So then your Angelo, there's maybe no room for him. You're maybe sending him out again. But it's the attacking talent that makes you think, and it reminds you of last year. It reminds me of last season. Almost every time I had Chelsea absolutely written off, they managed to get a result against the run under Pochettino somehow to keep him in his job all the way to the very end. Of course, finishing in 6th, which is somewhat commendable. But when you look at the attacking talent here, really no matter what the catastrophe is behind them, they really should be challenging teams. They really should be going on the front foot and scoring some goals. And, I don't think Chelsea are going to be dull. Never are. Never boring. There's no two ways about it. But it really feels that this squad is taking some massive backward steps under Bowley, under even Maresca bringing in Dewsbury Hall. I just think that it could do great. It could be fantastic. Don't get me wrong on that. But it does feel like the squad is just going from crowded to overcrowded super quick. And just with this guy being an untested Premier League manager, with Chelsea's clear aspirations being to get back into the Champions League, I just don't feel that. I'm looking at all the reports, they're linked to Ricardo Calafiore as well, which again, if you add him into the defence here, he is then first choice left centre back, and then that just gives you even more kind of headaches and problems with who's playing and who's staying and everything else if they were to get that over the line. I think that would be a huge transfer. This is the sort of transfer they probably should be going for. But just for the numbers, the amount of actual players they've got in here, it just makes it look even more ridiculous with every incoming transfer that happens. So, I think it'll be easy to take a bit more seriously once we see the window shake out a little bit more, see who does go out on loan, see if they do sell people like Conor Gallagher or maybe one or two others to try and buff up the homegrown profit margins and then allow them to manoeuvre in the market. Because Nkunku really did struggle to stay fit last year. Sterling is hot and cold, and it feels like it's mainly cold since he's been back in London with Chelsea. And Mudryk is, you don't need me to tell you. So there's no clear certainty outside of Palmer, really. Palmer's the only thing that is a real known quantity. I think Madueke showed fantastic promise and will have a big season this year if he gets minutes. But if Palmer's going to be in the front three, I don't know how often we're going to see him. Does he have to switch to the left, perhaps? And then you're looking at competing with all these guys. And Nico Jackson, as much as I wasn't a big fan of him, this guy, Gui, isn't that different, you know? When Jackson signed from Villarreal, he'd only played like 2 minutes. That's a big exaggeration, of course, but he hadn't been in La Liga that long. He didn't have a massive track record. It wasn't Drogba coming from, I don't remember if they won the UEFA Cup, but I'm sure Marseille got to the UEFA Cup final at least when Drogba was there. And this Gui guy's been playing Barca B. They brought him in for 5 million, and I would imagine he's going to be the main understudy, the main competitor here to Nico Jackson. So, as I say, it just feels like for all the resources and all the effort and all the talent that Chelsea are amassing, that they're just going backwards and backwards and backwards, you know. I say Dewsbury Hall to make him the centrepiece playmaker of this midfield, having barely kicked a ball in the Premier League for a team that wants to be finishing top 5, top 4. I just think there's more problems unraveling here than what it's solving. I'll be really interested to catch the comment section on this one. Who do you think? Will it be Conor Gallagher? Will it maybe end up being somebody like a Chuck Rumeka or maybe even a Levi Colwell, something like that? You know, where they're forced to sell a guy and they come to regret it sooner rather than later. I want to see those comments, and I'll be checking them out on the next time we visit the Chelsea Comedy Club. At any point in the video, if you did laugh and learn or like something, I hope you do subscribe to the channel for more content like this. On screen is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one, of course. Stay out of trouble, and I will catch you on the next one.